Hello, my name is Eric Knudsen. I'm an attorney in Wayne, Nebraska, and I'm hopefully speaking to some high school students via the Career Day experience. Uh, I don't know if this is working. I've tried doing this on multiple occasions, and I either didn't do it correctly or pushed the wrong button or did it under the wrong application. Or I created a video that was too large to send, so maybe you're getting this, maybe you're not. I'm working from home right now. As you can see, my lovely decor in my house, sitting at my kitchen table. Hopefully it's not too bouncy or anything for you guys. I apologize. I got my kid's stuffed animal here. I got my mask, but there's nobody else here, so I don't have to worry about that. My dog was here on the ground, but has since left because he was too bored, probably. So sorry about everything, and hopefully we can get this going. So again, my name is Eric Knudsen. I'm an attorney in Wayne, Nebraska. I've been an attorney for 8 years. I went to Wayne State College for my undergrad degree, and now I then went to the University of Nebraska Law School. Then I came back to work in Wayne. I've been doing that for 8 years. So I've been doing it for a little while, but of course there's lots I don't know, and there's lots of more experienced attorneys who could tell you more about the profession, probably a lot better than I can. So I've done this probably 5 times. I've spoken with high school students your age. Obviously, I've always been in person. And that experience has always been a lot better for me to talk to you guys and explain kind of what I do. And I try to interact with the students a little bit, ask them some questions. And I think it's probably more entertaining and more informational for those students when you're in person. And I apologize because today, obviously, you are not in person. So you're stuck with me on a computer screen, which may or may not be working. So maybe that's lesson number 1, maybe go into a career where you can understand technology. But then again, you kids nowadays probably understand it all. I don't. Anyway, so I will get started with an activity, not an activity, but a hypothetical that my first day of law school, my law professor ran by us and said, this is why we need attorneys in the world, and this is what we do on an everyday basis, which is essentially help people and help them figure out answers to difficult, sometimes difficult, usually difficult, but sometimes easy questions. Here's the example that he gave me. So usually I would call you out if you were sitting in front of me, and I'd ask who works at a grocery store. Some high schoolers work at grocery stores. But let's just say you work at a grocery store, and you are working there on a Saturday, and the manager or the assistant manager comes up to you and says, hey, I got to go. I got something important to do last minute, but here's, I have 2 jobs for you, 2 simple jobs. Pretty easy jobs. And if you can't follow them, well, you're fired. So the first job is to take all of these red, shiny apples. We just got a new shipment in, and put them in the front of the store. Here, let me show you. He walks you up to the front. And he says, put them right here so all the customers can see them. They are red, they are shiny, they are apples. Most high schoolers can figure that out. So pretend you can do that. Rule number 2, your boss says, take these, which are carrots, a lot of ugly, long, dirty carrots, and put them in the back of the store. Put them on the last shelf you can find. Here, let me show you. I'll go show you where to put them. So put these in the back. Put the apples in the front. Most high schoolers or anyone, I think my 4-year-old daughter could probably figure that out to do that. So boss says, think you can do that? Yep. All right. If you can't do that, you're fired. But anyway, boss leaves. You put the red apples up front. You put the orange carrots in the back. Pretty simple day. But then a shipment shows up, and the truck delivers a large shipment of these shiny red bell peppers. And he asks, where do you want them, boss? You want them in the front or the back? And you're in charge because you are the only one at the store. The question to you is, where are you going to put these? Are you going to put these in the front of the store next to the apples, or are you going to put them in the back? And sometimes people, high schoolers, have told me, put them somewhere in the middle. Well, though you don't have any opening. The only openings on any shelf is in the front by the apples or in the back by the carrots. So where are you going to put these? And if you use logic, you're trying to say, well, are these more like these carrots, or are they more like the apples? You know, I have to put them someplace, and the boss isn't going to let them just sit there. I have to put them on the shelf. Where should I put them? And I usually ask students, where would you put them? And most students say, well, I put them by the apples. Why is that? And they tell me, well, they're kind of the same color. These are red orange. They look kind of similar. They're shiny. So I think they're close to the apples. And then usually about one or two students in the group says, no, they're definitely not apples. So I put them by carrots. They're vegetables, which I don't know if they are, but they're not smooth. So you can't put them by the smooth apples. They definitely belong back in the carrots. Plus, we don't want people to get these confused. And the boss said put the apples up front because that's where the customers will see them. And he didn't say anything about putting these bell peppers up front. So we usually have a discussion about that. And ultimately, there is no right or wrong answer, right? The point of that exercise is to get you to think logically about why you should put the bell peppers in one spot or the other. The law is a lot like that hypothetical. We usually have lots of laws, lots of rules that society and people follow. And they're usually pretty simple laws. 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. Don't go more than 25 miles per hour. Don't kill people. Seems pretty simple, right? But we also have other laws about what people can do, when they can do it, and how they can do it. But sometimes you get something that doesn't fit nicely into the rules or the categories that we have in place. So it is an attorney's job to make arguments to help figure out why something is more like this or more like that, or perhaps it's something new altogether that we need to pass a new law and get something figured out. So on an everyday basis, people come in to see an attorney because they have a problem and they can't figure it out. They can't put it in a nice box, a rule of society that we can follow. So they pay us attorneys to say, well, you should probably do this, and here's why. So a real life situation, I'm just checking my time here. I think I'm supposed to talk to you for 30 minutes, and if you're lucky, I will not last the entire 30 minutes, so then you can be let out early or whatever it is you do. But if we apply that hypothetical to a real life situation, let's say a police wants to search you or your surroundings. One simple law is if you are in your home, the police cannot enter your home and search you or grab you without a warrant, or search anything else in your home or grab anything else in your home. They need a warrant to enter your home. That is a rule established essentially by the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. We want people to have privacy in their homes. Whatever you do in your home is up to you. And the police and the government don't need to see or know what's going on in your home. So that's the rule. The police can't come into your home and search without a warrant. They need a warrant signed by a judge saying, I have permission to go in there. So that's the rule. Rule number one. Rule number two is if you are driving a vehicle on a road, a public road, which most roads are, and are pulled over by a police officer, and the police officer says, I want to search your pockets and your vehicle. Get out, let me search right now. Assuming he has any good reason, a probable cause, such as maybe it smells like marijuana, then the police officer can search your vehicle legally without a warrant. He doesn't need to talk to a judge. He doesn't need a piece of paper signed by the judge. If you're in your home, he needs a piece of paper signed by the judge. If you're in your car, he doesn't. The officer does not need a piece of paper signed by the judge. So makes sense, right? If you're in your home, needs a warrant. If you're in a vehicle, you don't need a warrant. The reason you don't need a warrant, the police don't need a warrant to search a vehicle, is because if they pulled you over and they smelled something that's illegal, they said, stay right here. I'm going to go talk to a judge who probably lives in a different town and drop a piece of paper saying why I think you have something illegal in your vehicle. And the judge reviews that and then signs that piece of paper saying the police officer can search your vehicle. And the officer then drives all the way back and says, see, now I can search your vehicle. The judge said so. What are you going to do if you're the driver of that vehicle in the meantime? Most people would drive away, right? Because cars have these things called wheels and can move if they have gas in them. So that's the reason that the law says the police officer, we can't take the risk of allowing someone to leave the scene and while the officer goes and gets a warrant. So the officer can search without a warrant. So rule number one, if you're in the home, need a warrant. Rule number two, if you're in a vehicle, the officer doesn't need a warrant. What would your answer be to the following question? The officer walks up to you and says, I smell something illegally, or I smell something illegal and or on or around you. I think you have marijuana. Let me search. And you say no. Does the officer need a warrant if you are sitting in something like this, a motor home? Is that your home or is that a vehicle? That's a real life situation where an officer has to make that determination and you have rights and a judge would determine if that's the officer followed the law or not. Now, of course, this is like a home in that you might live there, you might sleep there, you might eat there, you might shower there, you might use the restroom there. All of your belongings might be in this mobile home, just like a regular home. But another attorney might argue this is like a vehicle. Why? Because of these things called wheels, and because you can move from place to place, and it has an engine and a place where you put the gas and make it go. So if an officer needs to go get a warrant, what's this thing going to do? It's going to drive away. And that's the whole reason we allow officers to search vehicles without a warrant. So those are two competing laws and competing logic, really. The principle of one law is that this is your home, you need privacy. The other principle is if it's a vehicle, the officer shouldn't need to leave the scene and go get a warrant and then come back because you will drive away. So the answer to this question in real life is it depends. If this is a vehicle that you rented and drove to a river for 2 days and had a suitcase or a bag of a couple pairs of clothes and some gummy worms and nothing else, well, then it's probably not your home and it's more of a vehicle. However, if this is parked in a park in town and it's been there for 10 years and it has not moved and that's where you live and get your mail and sleep every night and the tires are flat and there's no gas in the tank, then it's probably more like a home and the officer probably needs a warrant. So the whole point of that exercise, again, that was day one of my law school experience, so you can skip day one if you ever go to law school, you now know. Sometimes we have situations that don't fit nicely into the standard principled rules that we have in society. Sometimes problems arise and things come up. And so in this case, for example, people would hire an attorney to argue that it's a home, and then people would argue it's a vehicle, and the police officers, if they searched it, would say, please protect me from getting sued. And if the people were caught with drugs, they would say, please help me prove that that was an illegal search. And then a guy or girl in a black robe called the judge would make that decision based on established principles of the law, such as the Constitution and the statutes of the state of Nebraska. And if you're in the city of Wayne, then the city of Wayne has local ordinances. And if you're in the county of Wayne, then the county has ordinances. And there's rules all over the place that attorneys have to make sure you're following the right rules. There's environmental regulations. Every jurisdiction that you're in, or you may be in a district, natural resources district, you might be in a utility district. All of those places have rules in addition to your city and your county and your state and your region, and of course the United States, and there's international law. So all sorts of different levels of the law that people need to understand, and you pay attorneys to help you. So again, that's what I usually do with students. That usually takes up most of the time, but because we're only 15 minutes into this, we got to keep going. So I apologize, but I'm supposed to talk to you about what a normal day is like as an attorney. And the problem is there is no such thing as a normal day as an attorney. There's so many different types of attorneys and so many different things that you can encounter when you're an attorney. There's attorneys that work for companies. There's attorneys that work for health departments and businesses and real estate agencies. There's attorneys that work with finances. There's attorneys that work with criminal law. That's mainly what I do. But there's attorneys that spend all their time in court, in the courtroom, and like stuff you see on TV. And there's attorneys that never go into the courtroom. Instead, they just draft documents, contracts, and wills, and real estate papers, and things like that, and review trusts and estates. So there's so many different things that you can do. Of course, there's family law, there's criminal law, contract law, real estate law, business law, international law, water law. There's a whole section of Nebraska attorneys that only deal with water. Whose water is it? If there's a stream that goes along my property, what can I put in there? Can I fish in there? Can I skate on there? If someone drowns there, is it my fault? Things like that. So there's just so many areas of the law that you can work with. In Nebraska, most of us attorneys do a little bit of everything. So a normal day is someone calls up or comes into my office and says, hey, I got arrested, or I need to buy a business, or I want to sell my house, or I'd like to get divorced, or I'd like to adopt a child, things like that. And we try to help them. Sorry, it's shaking. And we try to help them with their problem, like talking through all the steps you must take to adopt a child, or have a background check done to make sure you can have a gun, or the paperwork you need to fill out in order to sell your house, or the documentation you need to prepare and send into the state of Nebraska before you own a business, things like that. So each day it's different. Each day you can do something else. But the main thing attorneys do, whether you're the highest level of attorney or the lowest level of attorney like me, is help people. And that can range from all very rich people come to see attorneys, and very poor people need attorneys. So ultimately, people come in with problems. You try to help them. You try to work it out. If you have a problem with your neighbor, try to work it out. If you can't work something out, you go to a judge, which is the courtroom, and you make arguments in front of the judge to try to convince the judge why you are correct, and then the judge makes a decision, and that's how it works. The skills that you would need to be a good attorney, and the skills I am still working on because I may not be a good attorney, are you need to be able to read and write and speak well. Reading is, attorneys read a lot of fine print, a lot of paperwork that most people just skim through. I think a lot of you have cell phones, and when you download an app, I'm sure it says, please agree to the following terms and conditions, and you probably scroll through all of that and probably read every single word, right? No, of course not. No one ever reads any of that stuff, and we just click, okay, I agree, right? So all of those words and things that you just scrolled right through were drawn up by attorneys to protect that company, most likely. So you can't go back and sue that company for something you did. Attorneys do the same thing, whether it's an app on a phone, or if it's a contract that you sign, or if it's something you get to borrow money, and there's 1,000 pages worth of things. Attorneys read through that to make sure it protects you, to make sure it doesn't say something that you're not aware of. And that's what people do that all the time. They bring in a piece of paper and it says it's 10 pages. They go, I want to buy this, and here's what it should say. Well, I make sure that it does say that. And then I also say, did you also know it says this? It says that you agree to pay for this if this happens. So you need to be able to read. You need to be able to research. You need to be able to understand why the law. You need to read and research and understand and analyze and comprehend why the law is the way it is. Why do officers not need a search warrant to search a vehicle? And it's because of all those things we talked about. There's exceptions to certain requirements of the law, and with the vehicle, it's because people might drive away. But there's obviously a lot more complicated things out there that you need to be able to understand. Secondly, you need to be able to write well. If you are a strong writer, you can convince people with your arguments and convince the judges, especially by writing and convincing them using your ability to analyze the past and situations and things like that. I would tell you I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker. And that's the third area that if you want to be a good attorney, learn how to speak well. I'm obviously not a good speaker. That's why, well, you can tell that by now. But to speak with clients, speak with other attorneys, speak with judges, speak with the juries, if you want to convince people, you have to be good with your words. You have to be able to keep them awake, keep them interested in your words, things that I'm still working on as an attorney of 8 years. So those are the things that if you can do those things, you can be probably good about anything in your life, but you'd be a really good attorney if you can read well, if you can write well, and you can speak well. In order to become an attorney, you need to obviously graduate high school. You're well on your way to doing that. So you go to a college. Usually takes 4 years, maybe less, maybe a little more to get a bachelor's degree. You get a bachelor's degree, and then you apply to go to law school. Generally, you need to have pretty good grades to get into law school. You don't need to have perfect grades, but you need to have good grades. You need to have some sort of resume which shows that you are somebody who wants to help others, that you are willing to volunteer, that you are willing to put in time to assist people, because that's what being an attorney is all about. So you need to have a good resume that shows you're connected and involved, and again, willing to help. And then finally, there's the LSAT, which is the kind of like the ACT to get into college. There's the LSAT exam, the law school admission test, which you take before you get into law school. Assuming you get a good grade on that, and you have good grades in college, and you have a good resume, you will get into law school. And even if you don't have good grades, sometimes you still get into law school. So I went to law school at the University of Nebraska. Like I said, there are 2 law schools in the state of Nebraska, Lincoln, the University of Nebraska down in Lincoln, and then Creighton University in Omaha. I think there are over 200 law schools in America, so most states have at least 1 law school. As far as advice on what to do in high school, what classes to take, generally any sort of government or history class would help you with an understanding of why the law is the way it is. And then any sort of English or writing or comprehension class would help you with those skills that are needed, not only for the law, but for anything. The one class I wish I would have taken when I was your age would have been a speech class. I hated speech. I'm still not good at speech. Public speaking is one of my biggest fears. I signed up for a public speaking class my senior year in high school, and I took it for 2 days, and then I dropped out to go be a teacher's assistant or something very easy. And while that was a very easy class, I really wish I would have stayed in public speaking. That would have helped me in everything I do. Would have helped me in college, would have helped me in law school, would have helped me now in my real world job. That would be my number 1 class to take if I were you. If you can get beyond public speaking fears, you are well on your way to being a successful person. Finally, I think I'm running out of time here, which you're probably excited about. Ultimately, I tell my students or the people that I talk to every year, you're 15 or 16 years old. I would not decide what you want to do the rest of your life based on a Zoom call from me or from anyone else today. You should explore lots of different things. That's probably the best thing I did in college is I took classes from lots of different areas, lots of different academic areas. Geography turned out to be one of my favorite subjects, and when I thought that'd be one of the most boring subjects. But I learned so much about how the world works and why it works the way it does based on geography of all things. I went to school to do something, and then I changed my major, and then I changed my career goals, and then I had an internship, and I really wanted to do something, but they told me to go to law school first, so I went there thinking I would do that, but then I decided I didn't want to do that, and I decided I can't do that, and that'd be difficult, and so I decided, where do I want to live, and if I live there, I should just be an attorney, and my point is there's lots of things that happen to all of us each and every day. Obviously, things like worldwide pandemics change the way the world works. But ultimately, my point is don't make up your mind today. You have lots of time. You can change your mind so many times between now and the time you need to have a job or get a job. I'm not sure I want to be an attorney the rest of my life. So even I, at the age of 33, may change my mind and decide not to do exactly what I'm doing right now. So you have lots of time. Have fun with high school and college, explore different areas of the world and different areas of education to figure out what would work best for you. And you may be surprised. It may not be exactly what you thought you'd want to be. So once again, you got lots of time to pick your career. Don't rush into something and be bound and determined to do it. If you have any questions for me, because I think we're getting close to the 30 minutes, my name again is Eric Knutson, and my email address, you may email me at erknut@gmail.com. Yes, that's erknut@gmail.com. It's the first 2 letters of my first name and the first 4 letters of my last name, but yes, it looks like Erknut. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I apologize again for doing this on Zoom. This is like the 3rd time I've done this recording, so hopefully this one works. Hopefully I can get it to you. Hopefully you're not asleep by now. And I wish you guys the best of luck in your future. Again, reach out if you have any questions. Thanks. Have a good day.